The federal government of Nigeria has reiterated its readiness to float a new national shipping carrier for the country. Erstwhile national shipping carrier, Nigerian National Shipping Line Limited, was liquidated in 1995 following its poor management and inability to remain afloat. Since then, several attempts to float another national shipping carrier has not seen the light of the day as shipping practitioners continue to bemoan losses that are incurring due to absence of a national carrier. The establishment of the Nigerian National Shipping Line Limited was born out of government deliberate policy not only to participate in the invisible earning sector of the economy, but also as part of its economic independence from the colonial masters and the creation of the country's distinct image. The proposed shipping line is meant to ensure that crude oil and other important cargoes in the country are ferried by Nigerians. The government also said that it is a huge economic waste that most of our hydrocarbon is being transported by people other than Nigerians, and also pointed that the government would not be spending so much on training of seafarers to get sea time abroad if only we had a national carrier. State-owned companies are often touted as necessary tools for development in emerging economies. This is because they can be directed by government to achieve development ends. The model has been a success in some countries, but it has been an epic failure in others. Such companies are not generally needed to provide goods, rather, they are needed to provide the foundation for a well-functioning economy and a healthy, well-informed populace. Nigeria, for example, historically, government has set up companies to develop industries where investors seem reluctant. A typical example is the defunct Nigerian National Shipping Line. To this end, the government constituted a committee to screen shipping operators interested in acquiring part of the 60% holding for Nigerians in the proposed national fleet. The fleet is expected to have a 40% foreign ownership. It is also noted that in 2014, Nigeria lost about $2.2 billion because of the absence of a national shipping line. This is to say that if 50% out of the 5,000 ships that landed in Nigeria in 2014 were Nigerian ships and managed by Nigerians, the country would have saved $2.2 billion. And Nigerian seafarers would have been engaged to work on the fleet and would have been earning about $3,000 per month. Imagine the number of families that would have benefited from that, and these are the kind of losses that Nigeria is making by not having ships carrying its cargoes in the international waters. International cargoes generated are carried by foreigners and foreign ships, as the country presently does not have ships in the international waters carrying dry cargo. Former President of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, while reacting to the matter, advised the federal government of Nigeria against resuscitating the defunct Nigerian National Shipping Line. The former president, who gave the advice in his address as the chairman of a two-day stakeholders conference on the maritime industry in Lagos, blamed the collapse of the Nigerian National Shipping Line on the lack of professionalism and high-level corruption at the time. He said the Nigerian National Shipping Line had been liquidated. The Tri-Nigerian Unity Line, it collapsed. 9 brand new ships were specially built for Nigeria, and we did not take delivery of some of them until I left office in 1979. When I came back in 1999, the Nigerian National Shipping Line had been liquidated with all 19 ships and the 5 already in existence gone. 2 of the ships were missing for almost 2 years, and it was discovered that one military man was using them all over the world without accountability. Obasanjo urged the Nigerian government to think out of the box and come up with what should be done to grow the maritime industry. However, the current government is saying that it is ready to create an enabling environment for steering the maritime industry to its rightful position. The government is also gearing towards providing safe environment for both foreign and indigenous investors to reap their returns on their investments without compromising. Meanwhile, Obasanjo and other stakeholders' fears may not be out of place given what happened to the NNSL in the past. The company was established by the Nigerian government in 1959. Despite heavy investment and subsidies, the state-owned company was unable to compete with European lines. Much of the investment went to enriching the political elite. Deeply indebted, the NNSL was liquidated in 1995 and all 21 of its vessels were sold. At inception in 1957, 33% of the capital was held by the Elder Dempster Line and 16% by the Palm Line, both British companies, while the Nigerian government held 51%. In 1961, the Nigerian government acquired all the shares. The NNSL started operations in 1959 with 3 vessels. Nigerian seamen who had been employed by British shipping companies in the colonial era moved to work for the Nigerian line. By 1964, it had grown to a total of 16 vessels. The public company was assisted by private businessmen. Sir Louis Ojukwu was an early member of the board, dying in 1966. The chairman, From 1967 to 1973 was Oloye Adekunle Ojora, formerly of the United African Company, who later became a highly successful businessman in his own right. During the Nigerian Civil War, the army made free use of the NNSL for transport of troops. The ships played a key role in the advances along the coastline in 1969. With the end of the Civil War in January 1970, General Yakubu Gowon announced an extensive program to revive the economy. In place of the expensive hired vessels, 2 new ships were bought for the NNSL, and the port at Calabar and Port Harcourt were rehabilitated. In 1977, the government ordered the reconstruction of 19 new vessels to replace the aging fleet. By 1979, the company had 24 ocean-going ships. The NNSL was an important source of training for seamen of the Nigerian Merchant Navy. While addressing newsmen in January 1980 about his first 100 days in office, former President Shehu Shagari said that during this period, the Nigerian shipping line increased its percentage of imported goods from about 8% to 11.3% and had started bringing in components for the Peugeot assembly plant in Kaduna, components that had previously been flown in. On a less positive note, heroin smuggling by crew members was a significant issue in the 1970s and 1980s, with Nigeria serving as a major transit point for drugs bound for Europe. A 1987 study of the Nigerian National Shipping Line for the World Bank compared results to the benefits that the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development had estimated would come from entry of Nigeria into shipping. The findings were that the investment had made no significant contribution to gross domestic product, employment, the balance of payments, exercising countervailing power, national security, or the country's image. The gains had been less than the opportunity cost of the resources used. In 1980, the National Maritime Authority granted 6 Nigerian shipping lines national carrier status. The Nigerian Maritime Authority planned to extend this status to more domestic companies so as to reduce control of trade by foreign-owned lines. The Shipping Policy Decree of 1987, which established the NMA, gave approval for a 50-50 share between foreign and domestic lines for non-conference cargoes. However, in 1988, the 24 ships of the Nigerian national carriers, including the NNSL, took only 11% of the cargoes in Nigerian ports. The Nigerian National Shipping Line and the private companies suffered from financial problems and lacked the facilities needed to attract cargoes. In the 1990s, several of the company's vessels were seized in different parts of the world for alleged breach of contract and unpaid bills. Finally, the Nigerian National Shipping Line was liquidated in September 1995 and its assets were assumed by the newly formed National Unity Line. The National Unity Line, fully owned by the Nigerian Maritime Authority, began commercial operations in July 1996 as Nigeria's national flag carrier. The National Unity Lines had just one ship, MV Abuja. In August 2005, the then government put the National Unity Line up for sale. The company now had no vessel but owned a shipping license. In July 2010, it was reported that the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, the successor to NMA, had completed arrangements to establish a new national shipping line for Nigeria.